What's up YouTube? Tonight's video is Mega Scrafty. It's got the Intimidate ability, which is very handy because as base it has that too, so you can get a double Intimidate off against the opponent. However, I thought I'd take it a step further and make use of Contrary as well. Mega Scrafty's got some really impressive bulk, and I came up with a fun team here. What do you think of Mega Scrafty? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Let me know in the comments. I actually don't mind its design. I know it's a simple change, but I don't mind it. Let me know in the comments. I'd like to hear all your thoughts and opinions. And of course, if you love the videos, let's get some likes and let's get into it. So in the team preview, this is obviously a Staraptor and Whimsicott Contrary team. Now, I couldn't actually implement my strategy right away, but man, this was an insanely cool battle. So make sure you strap yourself in, get something to eat, something to drink, because this one was fire. Okay, so we got that Mega Staraptor there, never saw that one coming, and we got this Whimsicott using the Tailwind. So the normal sort of lead and strategy. What we're going to do here with Grimmsnarl is go for a Swagger. So obviously I predicted they'd do that, so we dropped their attack with Swagger. This is just to counter any of these Mega Staraptors because of course they are everywhere. So we got Close Combat on the Malamar. Now this is a bulky Malamar set. A bulky Trick Room set actually, and we're going to be running Trick Room for this team. You may have noticed there was an Iron Ball Goldengo in the start there, so we got some cool sets coming. Okay, so we got the Garchomp swapping in here, and we're going to set up Reflect here because I need to be able to tank some moves. The tricky part now was getting Scrafty in, because say if I swapped it in now, I would give Staraptor attack boost with Intimidate, so I couldn't send it in. So this was a bit of a sticky situation, but I did have an idea what I could do, and it lied in one of my other Pokemon. So we're going to go for that parting shot to do a swap here with Grimmsnarl, just dropping those Garchomp's attack and into Goodra. So today we're running Goodra Hisu as a counter to Fairy type Pokemon, and I'm going to use Skill Swap on it. So this Pokemon actually has a lot of bulk, counters fairies, and it also has Draco Meteor, which I thought that's going to be quite a good Pokemon to spam Draco Meteor under the Trick Room. And I was thinking here too, since I just gave Contrary away, I could maybe get Contrary ability back again from their Staraptor, and I might be able to use it for Scrafty. I wasn't sure if I could actually do that yet, but that was my plan. So going for the Draco Meteor, just dropping that Garchomp easy peasy, and getting a special attack, a sharp special attack rise, which is, you know, pretty powerful on Goodra. So going for the skill swap, and the cool thing is there, I gave it Shell Armor. So now, when it uses Close Combat, it's actually going to naturally drop its defense and special defense. So the Close Combat's, you know, hitting pretty hard still, but I've got that Reflect up, and Goodra's got some Goodra bulk there. So that is going to be the end of the Tailwind, which doesn't really matter too much, and we've got a Grimmsnarl coming out here. So Grimmsnarl is going to go for the Light Screen. And even with the Light Screen, I thought this is going to do a lot of damage. So unloading a fat Thunderbolt, really good damage there. Plus I actually got a Paralyze, which is nice. So you can generally see how hard that Goodra is hitting there. So they're going to snap out a Confusion and finish off Goodra, but that was a pretty Goodra result there. Now, the coast is clear for me to send in Scrafty, right, because they don't have Contrary anymore. So it's time to bring up the Pimp Knight Special. So first things first, we're going to get a bit of damage there on Grimmsnarl. This has Throat Chop, right, and Superpower. So in case I don't want to use my skill swap strategy, I've still got a very viable Pokemon. So into the Scrafty, Intimidate's going to be working nicely here. So this is the good thing about Scrafty. Like Mega Scrafty is like a double-edged sword, right? Against physical attackers, it's really good. However, if they've got Defiant, you know, that makes things kind of bad. So that's the only risk. So another Intimidate there. Poor Staraptor's attack has been dropped a lot. Clapping Grimmsnarl's cheeks there just to stall out a turn, because we're going to get a skill swap here going. I just love this, right? I managed to get two skill swaps and the Trick Room going again here, which is perfect. I didn't really expect to get the Goodra with the Contrary and then be able to give it to the Scrafty, right? So we got some reflects and stuff set up there. Here comes the Close Combat on my Scrafty, but this thing is built really tanky, right? And that's how I wanted it to be. It's funny because this is actually very, very similar to a Staraptor set. Very, very similar, except it's got a lot more bulk and it's got a lot more sustain with Drain Punch instead of Overroost. So getting that skill swap off here, there is 2 contrary Pokemon in one battle. Another Intimidate. Look at Staraptor. It's cooked. All right, so here comes the Brave Bird here. And I was thinking, I should live this easy, right? And I did. Very, very easy. Staraptor's attack is like 2 right now. And yeah, it's paralyzed, so it's not really much of a problem. So now we can go for close combat. And that's going to take out the Grimmsnarl. So using the close combat, I've got a defense and special defense rise. So this is like, I'm making them know how this feels to verse Mega Staraptor. A little bit of icing on the cake here, just to let a little bit more salt into the wound. Doing another skill swap here, and we're going to give the Staraptor Intimidate to boost my attack as well. this is mean, right? My opponent must really hate me. So now we got the Whimsicott. Now, Whimsicott does have a chance of doing some pretty big damage with a fairy type move being Moonblast. So I thought I'd better get some close combats rolling here. So I got a second one off there. Big damage to Whimsicott, which is really nice. And another defensive special defense rise. Going for Throat Drop, really trying to get rid of Whimsicott, but you know, I had moves that weren't very effective. So he was going to be able to get around this. So here comes the Moonblast from the Whimsicott, and we live those ones. So that was perfect. Absolute perfection there. The Reflect is now gone. So here comes a Brave Bird from Staraptor. I'm like, oh, I don't know if I'll live this one. And I lived it on 4 health. You wouldn't read about it. So Staraptor's going to take a bit of recall here. Going for the close combat, finishing off the Whimsicott. So that was really, really good. So that's another boost in my defenses as well. So you can see how this snowballs really, really well. And Drain Punch is there for recovery. So going for Throat Chop here, a little bit of damage on the Staraptor. Now this Staraptor is very slow. Look at its stats. This poor Staraptor. So going for a Throat Chop here since the Trick Room's gone, and since they're paralyzed, they're actually going to get outsped. We're going to go for a big Drain Punch, bit of suck there, and that is going to take out the Staraptor. And that is the end of the battle. Like I don't think I could have given you guys a better battle with Contrary. Not only did I bypass their Staraptor strategy, I got countered with my own Scrafty. I worked around it to the Goodra, got rid of their ability, then I brought in my Scrafty and got the dub. I mean, that's got to deserve a like, right? I hope you guys really enjoyed that battle, and you know, I'll give my opponent props there too. They did hang in there even after I did, you know, really dismantle their strategy. All right, second battle. This was a cool one. This was really cool. So this was a Malam. It was, I knew what was happening here. So I seen the Torterra, I seen the Malam. I'm like, wait, it's like the Spider-Man meme, right? So we got that skill swap. So I was thinking, okay, this is perfect because I can get a skill swap onto my Scrafty. I know they're going to go for skill swap on their Torterra because they're going to try and make that Torterra really tanky. So we actually had a very, very similar kind of strategy here. Okay, speaking of which too, we've got 4 more Megas to go, and that's it. 4 more Megas. So I hope you've been enjoying this series. If you've been watching through them, you know, there's been quite a few videos now. Unfortunately for me, I get taunted. So now I can't go for skill swap, and my strategy is cooked right for now. So I'm thinking, how am I going to get around this? So they set the grassy terrain up there, and I couldn't use that. So I just went for close combat. Unfortunately, you know, it did good damage, don't get me wrong, but I couldn't get the contrary going there. So Malamar's got a Citrus Berry. I don't know whether that was more of a tanky set, seemed to be at least max health, I would say, but they managed to live. So I thought, all right, I'll go for Malamar, and I got to feint this. Now, I was running a Trick Room team too, so they did outpace me, and they did get the skill swap off. So now Torterra has got Contrary and Headlong Rush. So that's not a bad play there. I guess the only thing, that's getting powered down by the Grassy. I think they're using that for recovery. So anyway, I just targeting this Malamar, trying to take it out, and I thought, you know what? If you're not going to allow me to get my Malamar strategy going, I'm going to start using Superpower. So that Torterra is going to make itself really tanky with Headlong Rush. Now that's okay and all. You know, it's a bulky Pokemon, but it has one key weakness, which is Ice moves. And I was just so happening to run a Ice move on my Pokemon. Before I did that, I'm going to go into Goldengo. Now, I did a double swap there because I was taunted and it wasn't really the greatest, right? So I did a double swap. Now, this Goldengo is a Trick Room Goldengo with Iron Ball, and I could tell you what, I took a lot of people off guard with this, and it was actually really good. So I managed to live that attack thanks to, you know, Torterra's terrain, and they're just boosting themselves up here. Now, with Goodra, I've got Ice Beam, and they've got a Sneasler too, so they're probably going to try and fake out. I was hoping I could swap into, you know, the fake out with Goldengo, but, you know, that wasn't the case. So I've got Ice Beam. I can go for that. Here comes Throat Chop, and that actually does not take it out. It's very close. This turn, you wouldn't read about it. I thought it'd be really cool if I could trick my Iron Ball away, because it's kind of a nasty item if you... especially on something like Sneasler. Before I did that, I fired an Ice Beam right out of the shell. Really good damage there to Torterra, as expected. So even with Torterra, all Torterra's boost there, it took phenomenal damage, right? So I managed to get the trick Iron Ball off on Sneasler. Buddy, you ain't getting your unburdened anytime soon. So they had a Focus Sash, right? So that was excellent. So a little bit of healing for both my Pokemon. Which is nice. So this Goodra can definitely go for the Torterra with Ice Beam again. And Torterra's got, you know, it's got the grassy terrain. I know what they're doing. They've got grassy terrain and leftovers for recovery while they spam Headlong Rush. Okay, so I'm thinking here I have to go for Torterra. That's my main sort of target now. They're going to throw up a Protect there. Obviously scared of, well, I'd say my Goodra. I went for Shadow Ball and Ice Beam just to get rid of this Pokemon. And we got the Sneasler going for the Throat Chop, taking out Goldengo there. So I was like, okay, well, that's not a bad result. I managed to, you know, I managed to give off a good item there, and to Sneasler, making that essentially going, well, it's funny because it's still out, spared my Goodra, but, you know, it was good against my other Pokemon. So we've got some recovery there. Torterra's back to 60%. So the grass is now gone. Now we're going to go into Scrafty. Now, this is another problem. So my ability, this is what could have happened in that previous video with Staraptor, right? That's why I got counted so earlier on in the battle. I was like, man, this might not work. So same sort of thing here. So we got a swap out and we got a Starmie coming in. It's like, oh, this has got to be Mega Starmie. So clapping Torterra's cheeks there, and we get that flinch. Here comes the Ice Beam. That was really important, and Torterra's down. So that's their contrary Pokemon down. That was payback for taunting my Malamar, but I still needed to get them back for that with my Malamar, and don't you worry, I had a plan. I just had to execute it. So looking at my team here, we got that Tangaberry Malamar too, and you'd be surprised, a bulky Malamar can actually live bug moves pretty well. So into the Malamar, and we've got Mega Starmie. So Mega Starmie has huge power, right? So I figured, what happens if I'm going to take that ability away from it, you know, and that's not going to be, you know, as scary. So swapping to Malamar to take the fake out. Here comes Ice Spinner. So Ice Spinner is going to go for Goodra. You know, Goodra's very tanky, so I'm able to live that. This turn I went for a Thunderbolt, and, you know, Mega Starmie, you know, took that reasonably well. It's got alright special defense, right? Now they're going to go for Recover. I'm like, oh, okay, so it's a Stally set too. Close combat's going to be enough to take out the Goodra. So, you know, Goodra did a very nice job there. A very good job, I may say, at taking Torterra out. If I didn't have an ice move, that would have been much, much harder. So, going for Throat Chop this time with Malamar, putting it back to, you know, almost where it was before. So, this time, I'm thinking, okay, this is good for Intimidate. So, Sneasler and Starmie. But it wasn't going to end there. I had some plans here. So I've got Fake Out. I thought the biggest target here is Sneasler right now. Fake Out does enormous amounts of damage. Aqua Jet doesn't really do too much. I think that might be their only water move. And I went for Skill Swap here. So I actually got rid of the Starmie's ability, and I got Huge Power. So I was like, yes, so Huge Power Malamar. So that was I was feeling pretty good now. I got them back for that taunt earlier on. So now I can go for Throat Chop on Starmie. And, you know, hopefully take that Sneasler out. So here comes the Ice Spinner. Malamar eats it like a snack, right? Here comes the close combat for my Scrafty. That's actually enough to take it out, even with those attack boosts there. So that is the end of Scrafty. It did take a bit of damage. The thing about Scrafty is it's got really high defenses and special defense, but its health is actually kind of bad. So go for Throat Chop, huge power Throat Chop Malamar, only on Pit by Shadow, and that's going to take out Mega Starmie. It is down to a 1v1. What a crazy battle this has been. I'm going to go for the Throat Chop here. Close combat doesn't do enough damage to bulky Malamar. This is very tanky. Max health, split defenses. Here comes the huge power, a Throat Chop, and with all those defensive drops, that is the end of the Iron Ball Sneasler, which actually outsped me still. And what a crazy battle that was. Really cool coming across, like, not only was it a contrary strategy, it was both the Malamars too. So very, very unique to come across that. Really, really cool stuff. Hope you're enjoying the battle so far. If you are, if you love the videos, if you enjoy watching, just please drop a like and a comment. That tells YouTube you're digging the videos, and it, gets my videos out there to other people too that may not be able to see them and stuff. Okay, but thank you all for watching. Really appreciate you all watching my Mega series. I've got some great stuff coming up in the future too, once we finish these Megas. Okay, so next battle here, we got a Metagross and a Dragonite. A bit hard to pick what this Mega could be. Okay, so first things first, I thought, that's possibly a physical Dragonite, but more than likely a special one. And, Metagross's clear body stops that too. So I thought, well, if it is Metagross, they're probably inclined not to go for the Mega right away, possibly. So I went for the Fake Out, and Dragonite uses Blizzard. You are not going to believe this battle, right? You're not going to believe this battle. So a Blizzard Dragonite with no snow. So, that's interesting. That's a very interesting set. Indeed, right? Not using any snow. So, we got the Trick Room up. Early on, this is actually an early battle I had with this team, and I didn't have Drain Punch here. I was actually experimenting with Curse. And the reason why I did that is I found that Malamar was actually a little bit slower than my Scrafty. So what I did was on the first turn, under Trick Room, I'd go for Curse. Drop my speed, increase my attack by 1 stage, and then I'd get the skill swap. And then after that, I could just spam close combat. So I didn't have any sustain at all. It was more of this was an experiment battle, right? Just to give you an idea while I was using Curse. I thought Curse would be fun on it anyway, to drop its speed. So that's the end of Malamar. That Dragonite is hitting a lot of Blizzards, right? So I swapped in Grimmsnarl here, and we're going to go for close combat. I've got to start boosting up my defenses. Metagross gets absolutely annihilated there in one shot. So that was solid, right? That was a +1 too. So +1, and really good. So this Scrafty dodges the Draco Meteor, and of course, look who it is. We've got the Staraptor. So Staraptor didn't have Intimidate. It's like, oh, that sucks. That would have been really, really good, right? But, that it is what it is, right? So we set that light screen up just for Dragonite. I went for close combat on the Staraptor to, do some heavy, heavy damage. Dragonite is still going for Blizzard here, right? And, it is still hitting a target, but it's not really doing a lot of damage. Now we've got the Staraptor going for its Mega. So I'm like, okay, that needs to go, right? That absolutely needs to go. So I wasn't sure if they had anything to actually, boost the attack up with. So I boosted my own attack with my own Parting Shot, and then dipped out, and then went into Goldengo, right? So this Goldengo is a very, if you like Mega Scrafty, Goldengo is an excellent partner. If you don't want to use Goldengo, you can use a Steel-type Pokemon, right? I like Gudra Hisu. That was quite a good one to use too, especially under Trick Room. I forcibly made this Goldengo slow with the Iron Ball. That's why I was using him. So, of course, Dragonite gets a freeze on my Scrafty. I was like, oh, this is a disaster, right? And it is landing a lot of Blizzard, you have to admit, right? So now I'm getting peppered by this Brave Bird from the Staraptor. And the damage is starting to take its toll here, and the Trick Room's gone. So, man, this is where I realized that I might need to run Drain Punch on this set over Curse, So I'm thinking, I've got to get rid of this Staraptor, right? So Staraptor's going to go for Roost. They do have Roost a lot there, I get it retaining their bowl. Dragonite now goes for a Draco Meteor on my Scrafty, right? That's not doing any damage at all. So this Dragonite has virtually hardly any special attack now. So it's quite a weak, weak target. So going for Make It Rain here for some damage. Really good damage there on Staraptor, but it's not quite enough to, to take it out. So swapping out Goldengo, because obviously it's not quite as much damage because I'm not running I can't continually go for it if I had a White Herb or a Life Orb, right? That was probably one of the drawbacks to having Iron Ball. Dragonite now goes for Thunder, lands it, Doesn't get a lot of damage on Scrafty, but, you know, still lands it. I'm still frozen solid. Then they went for extreme speed. Bro, what is going on with this Dragonite, right? So I'm just going for swagger here. I was like, I've got to shut this Staraptor down. This could be a problem. So dropping its attack harshly, you know, just like the first battle, hoping it hits itself for confusion. That was the plan, right? And it did. I was like, okay, good. You know, I'm still seeing how like, hanging in here, right? So at last, finally I thaw out. Go for the close combat. And Staraptor's down. I'm like, okay, that's excellent. That's really, really good. And I got a defense and special defense rise. So we're rolling again. That's excellent. Now, the Dragonite this turn, I was like, is it... Like, surely they're going to swap it out soon. They E-speeded again. And they E-speeded my Grimmsnarl. I was like, well, that's going to do nothing. Then I went for Parting Shot. I went for it on my Scrafty to boost up its attack. Then I went into Goldengo. So I was like, okay, this should be okay. Swampert, base Swampert, had a brick break. You wouldn't read about it and took my Scrafty out. I was like, oh, that was bad luck there. So that removed both my screens. So, you know, good play by my opponent. And we've got Grimmsnarl coming in. It's funny because I actually moved base Swampert onto this team. You know, instead of one of the Pokemon, which was Farigiraffe, but more on that a little bit later. So Dragonite is still landing these blizzards. I don't know how it's doing it, but it's doing no damage. Now Swampert's going to go for an Earthquake. I'm like, oh no, this is actually kind of bad because my team was a little bit weak to Earthquake with some of the, you know, the Pokemon that I had. So going for Shadow Ball here, I figured that Shadow Ball would be like a 2-hit KO on Swampert, and it was. Then I Parting Shot the Swampert to drop its attack. Like, I need to that. Dragonite is still landing these blizzards. That was a critical hit on... I'm starting to think this might have been a wide lens Dragonite. Don't think I've seen... Yeah, I hadn't seen this item. Then Swampert goes for Earthquake again. It's like, this is going to be pretty close, but I don't think they're going to live, right? And Goldengo lives. I'm like, yes, this is great. So, you know, this is going to be the last Pokemon now, which is the Dragonite. So firing Shadow Ball at the Swampert, taking it out. All that's left now is this Dragonite with, like, crazy, like, negative special attack drop. So I went for the Swagger here. This is all I could really do because Grimmsnarl was a completely passive set instead of having Spirit Break. And, yeah, hoping Dragonite would hit itself. It went for Blizzard and hit both targets and took them out. I cannot believe that Dragonite. That's crazy stuff there. Like, there was absolutely nothing I could do. They just got insane luck. Like non-stop with that Dragonite. But just an interesting battle there to show you. That was my very first battle with this team. And yeah, after that, I realized that, you know, I better get Drain Punch if I'm going to verse crazy lucky opponents like that. I need some sustain, like even with all the bulk on my team. But yeah, see how Farigiraffe is there. Farigiraffe, it's not like it's a bad Pokemon or anything. It's a very good Pokemon, but I found I wasn't really using it a lot. I was more using the Malamar for Trick Room and going from there, right? So later I swapped that up to a base Swampert, which actually was very useful with Wide Guard because my team was... It was weak to Fairy, you know, you probably think like Sylveon and stuff like that, it was weak to. So our next battle here, we've got a Mega Heracross. So my Malamar was very scared of this thing. I was like, man, like one pin missile is going to drop me. But as you know, I've got the bulky set and I've got Tangerberry on there. So Mega Evolving the Scrafty here, I thought this is not all that bad. I've got an Intimidate, and I've got a Fake Out. So faking out the Garden Gnome and Flash Cannon. I was like, oh, that's a weird move to use. And it crit me. I was like, wow, that was lucky. And then it dropped my special defense. I was like, wow, that was lucky. So, you know, I didn't even... That would have been great if that happened when I had Contrary, right? So not exactly the greatest start to the battle there. So setting the Trick Room up. I don't know why they didn't go for a Poison move or something like that. They just went for Flash Cannon. I have no idea. Maybe they just want... Maybe they actually deliberately went for that special defense drop. So... you know, wasting no time, going for Drain Punch. I had Drain Punch now on this set. And we got Toxic Debris on there. I thought, maybe I could get Toxic Debris off that Glimora and use it for myself. It was just something in the back of my mind because it was still early days, you know, and there was a Mega Heracross there. So Mega Heracross is going to unload a fat close combat. The only reason I live that is because I dropped the attack so many times and stuff. So it does huge amounts of damage. So here comes the Sludge Bomb. Big damage on Malamar, but you know, if it's not a 3-hit KO, yeah, that may be max damage or min damage. I'm not sure, but I feel like at best it'll be a 3-hit KO. So go for some good damage there on the Heracross. pretty much resist everything, you know, increasing my stats. Now going for the skill swap. So I figured that Heracross, it has to go for my Malamar soon. And if it does, at least I might be able to put 2 layers of Toxic Spikes on the field. So I actually got an attack rise there, which is cool from that. And here comes the Pin Missile. So here we go. Tangaberry Malamar. The first one did nothing. And I put 1 layer of Toxic Spikes down. I'm like, all right, I want to see how much the next one does, you know? And they crit me. I was like, come on. So the cool thing is, though, I got 2 layers of Toxic Spikes from that Glimmora. So I'm like, ooh, I might be able to make use of that in the back row. You never know. And if I can take Glimmora out, they may not be able to absorb it. So here comes a Flash Cannon. I'm like, all right. And it took me out. Yeah, that Glimmora really screwed me over from the start there. And, you know, taking that big hit from Heracross wasn't great either. So, down to my last 2 Pokemon, which are fortunately Steel types. Now, thinking about this, like, well, I could go for Make It Rain here, but I'm going to save that. Let's go for Shadow Ball, which I know will take Heracross out. And with Goodra, I can go for just, you know, Flash Cannon. So, that's super effective too. And Glimmora's already taken some hits. So, no, they can't absorb those Toxic Spikes anymore. So, like, all right, let's see what we're going to have in the back here. They're both going to get poisoned. So, we've got Scovelin and we've got Dragapult. So, this is good. If Scovelin's like a bulky Moody set, I've got a bad poison on them, which is like super, super nice, right? So, I figured with Goldengo, I'm just looking. I was looking at my Trick Room. I was like, well, I've got 1 turn left. I've got to make it happen this turn, right? So like, okay, Shadow Ball and Draco Meteor. Watch this, right? I fight a Shadow Ball off. Dragapult lives. I'm like, oh, that's just got to be a Focus Sash, right? But it wasn't. It wasn't a Focus Sash. I'm like, wow, that's a bulky freaking Dragapult, right? I went for the Draco Meteor. That dropped the Scovelin, right? So that was good. I completely dodged that. I wonder what they were going to do with that. Anyway, so I got the White Herb. That's what I've got on my Goodra. It's useful. And this turn, they went for Will-O-Wisp. So straight away, that tells me that's a bulky Dragapult with like Hex and Will-O-Wisp, right? It's actually got surprising bulk Dragapult. Very, very good bulk. Now, the funny thing is here, the poison actually takes the Dragapult out from the Toxic Spikes that I set up with my ability from the Glimmora. And that's the end of the battle. But crazy battle. I just thought I'd show you that one. It's a little bit different. I lost my Scrafty, but I managed to take the rest out there. This was an interesting battle. So this is an Explosion team, and it's a Trick Room team with Mega Glalie. Or they could be Mega Starmie, you know. There's that, because Mega Starmie's got Self-Destruct. So they live with Oranguru. So if you see Explosion Pokemon with the Oranguru won't be running Inner Focus, so you can freely go for a Fake Out. You can do that. It'll have Telepathy instead, which means the Explosion won't affect it, right? Or any damage done to allies it ignores. So it's quite a good ability is Telepathy. So I really, really wanted, like, this is another chance. Like, man, I'd really like to get Skill Swap and take its huge power, you know. But I just thought maybe I'll get my Contrary on there first and then go for that, because they may be a little bit wary about using Self-Destruct after getting Intimidated twice, right? Okay, so we got some Intimidates happening here. Starmie's going to use Protect this turn, so like that's good. That's virtually a free turn, right? And I'm guessing I was like, maybe Oranguru will try and set up the Trick Room for me, because I've actually got a Trick Room team too. And I faked out the Oranguru, and yeah, they blocked it. So I set Trick Room out myself anyway. Like, I may as well. So I've got that going. You know, Starmie's a fast Pokemon, so that would at least counter it. But I knew that on the rest of their team, there were some Trick Room Pokemon. So I've got Throat Chop, and I thought, well, Throat Chop's going to be good against the Oranguru. I'm not really worried about this Starmie at all, because I did drop his attack, and I think it might blow up. So we got an Instruct from Oranguru, so they're going to force me to use Fake Out again, which is going to fail. And now I went for my own move, which is Throat Chop. They have the Colbur Berry. So the Colbur Berry is a pretty good item on Oranguru, because there's a lot of Dark type knockoff users and stuff like that. So it lives that very easily, and I'm going to steal the ability from Starmie. So like, okay, now you're going to enjoy having Contrary Starmie. This Self-Destruct is going to do nothing, right? See, here it comes. It's not going to affect the Oranguru. I wanted to see what the damage was, like how little it would be, and it did nothing. So that was really, really great couple of turns there. So Starmie completely countered. Now the next Pokemon is going to be Silhouette. Now this is where I didn't have I believe I didn't have Swampert this time, so like, oh crap, this is really, really bad. So Sylveon did outspeed me under Trick Room. It was a Trick Room set. Unfortunately, I just didn't have any Pokemon slow enough. Like Goldengo can outspeed it, but I didn't have it out. And, you know, Goldengo with Iron Ball actually outspeeded. So this is obviously, you know, this is a typical sort of Instruct Hyper Voice set. So 2 Pokemon down there. You know, big quad fairy weakness. Look, I could have swapped out there, but I didn't want to risk it. So into Goldengo and into Goodra. So these are my 2 back row Pokemon. And they work pretty nicely under the Trick Room. So I've got Flash Cannon. And I know that Sylveon is very tanky and they'd be running, say, like max health and max special defense. So like this might even live, make it rain. And it did. I knew that it'd live because I wasn't running like Metal Coat or Life Orb. So I went for Flash Cannon on Sylveon. Like that was my #1 target because I figured that Oranguru is probably just going to go for Instruct again and, you know, so they can fire off 2 of them. So completely countered them with an Iron Ball Goldengo only on Pimlice Channel. So that worked out really, really well. Perfection. Next Pokemon is Rhyperior. I was like, oh no, this is bad, right? So both of my Pokemon are weak to this. Goodra's a lot more tanky though. So Oranguru is going to go for Protect this turn. Now I knew that I could outspeed it with Goldengo because of Iron Ball halving its speed. So I got to make it rain off here, but unfortunately, you know, it was dropped. If I had a White Herb there, it'd be great, but then, you know, they're going to wouldn't have outsped it, so it was a catch-22. Rhyperior outspeeds my Goodra Hisu here, and it gets an Earthquake off. I'm like, okay, and that just wipes both of my Pokemon. So, essentially, they had top counters there for my team. They had Sylveon, which is an easy counter, and then they had the Rhyperior there. But pretty crazy close battle there, and they had Life Orb on top of that too. I thought that Goodra might be able to live that. I'd be interested to know that damage calc. I'm assuming they're running Brave Rhyperior with Life Orb, but I wonder if Goodra can live, Goodra Hisu, because it's very bulky, like that was max health. Actually, I'm actually kind of curious to what the speed was, like the speed difference between Rhyperior and Goodra, because Goodra's really, really slow. You know, I know so is Rhyperior, but interesting stuff there. Let's get on to the next battle. You wouldn't read about it. This battle was against someone called Pickle, and they had a green outfit. So I was like, oh, wow, is this like a troll? Like, is this like a viewer? Like, you know, I don't know. Or is this someone who loves Pickle? So like, all right, I've got to give it to him. We got to take this this Pickle trainer out. So we've got a Raichu there, and it's going to be Raichu X, which is good, because I'm running, you know, Intimidate Pokemon, so that's going to be very, very useful. We also got a Wire Deer there too, and that's, I was thinking it might have Trick Room or be anti-Trick Room. I wasn't 100% sure yet, but I had a feeling. So go for that Mega Scrafty. We got our purple jacket on. I guess like Scrafty is like a, I guess it's like a punk, you know? Like, I guess that's what it's like based on. So going for the fake out on the Raichu, clapping them cheeks. Mega Horn on the Whitey, Tangerberry Malamar absolutely eats it like a snack. So that's really, really good. I'm so glad I ran, like, Tangerberry activated so often. And funny thing is too, I'll give you some damage calcs, things. I live Scissors U-turns, I leave, you know, stuff like that. I leave pretty much every bug move on the first one, so I didn't have to worry about that. It was quite a little bit, I was quite surprised, right? So now we got Hydrapple coming in, and I know that, like, if you notice, their whole team's green for Pickles as well. Like, they're doing this person's either loves Pickles or, you know, they're just doing this on purpose, right? And obviously, it's a random battle, so I figure that someone could obviously love Pickles too. But as you guys know, if you don't, I hate Pickles. So I was like, I got to get the W here, so I'm going to get roasted. So we're going to get the Trick Room set up, and we're going to try and get that speed advantage. Not that Hydrapple is a fast Pokemon or anything like that. So Hydrapple was my main sort of target here. And I had the close combat. I thought, well, I could try and get some boost here. Then the Hydrapple had a Quick Claw. I was like, oh no. And that's going to use Fickle Beam. And people I like to call that, like, people call that Pickle Beam, or, you know, stuff like that. You know, they make fun of me and say, oh, it's, you know, it's not Fickle Beam, it's Pickle Beam. So I generally start calling that Pickle Beam. Now, so good thing was they didn't get the double powered one, because that would have done a lot of damage. So doing a skill swap here, and I thought it'd be funny because that way I can do Intimidate, and then Intimidate my Mega Scrafty to give it an attack boost. So at this stage, I think my attack was neutral, right? I didn't have any boost, but I didn't have any drops. So it was kind of back to neutral. So I had Throat Chop here, which I knew it could take Wire Deer out. And I also had Drain. Like, this is after I adjusted the Curse moveset. So another Mega Horn here. I was like, wow, that did so much damage. And they got a crit. I was like, wow. I love how that Mega Horn did more than Fickle Beam. Anyway, that's the end of Wire Deer there, which is good. So no more Mega Horns, you know. Even the Mega Horn animation is green too. Do you reckon they did it on purpose? I don't know. Like, I have no idea. Do you guys reckon this is like a troll that I randomly found, or someone that just loves pickles? I don't know. Like, what do you think? Anyway, we got an Arbok. Now, if there was shiny Arbok, that would be, like, that almost is like almost a greeny color too. So, Arbok didn't have Intimidate, but it had Scale Shot. I'm like, what the heck is this set? So, Scale Shot, multiple hits Malamar, and takes it out. And they got 3 hits there. And they got a defense drop, which is actually good, but it's like a speedy set. So going for close combat on the Hydrapple, trying to take this thing out. It's so freaking tanky, right? And it's using Fickle Beam again. Fortunately, I didn't get hit by the double base power one, because that would have taken me out. So the electric terrain's gone from the Raichu, swapping in Goodra now. Hopefully we can have a good result with this. And I've got Draco Meteor for Arbok. I thought that'd be fine. And then just Drain Punching the Hydrapple. However, Arbok's going to go for Scale Shot. I'm like, okay, all right, should be able to live this. I should be able to live this. And it hit 5 times and I lived on 2 health. It was so close, right? I was like, wow, that was almost a disaster, right? They had that loaded dice. No, I'm just joking. So Hydrapple's going to fake to the Drain Punch. We're going to get a little bit of health back, which is good. Now, this turn, I went for Draco Mid. I was like, this is going to be a powerful attack. If it's a sweeping Arbok, there's no way that it's going to live. Arbok lived on 1 health, so okay, so it's got a Focus Sash, right? And I had my White Herb. I was like, okay, yeah, so this Focus Sash is going to activate, right? And it didn't. I was like, what? There was no Focus Sash. I'm like, that just lived on 1 HP. But you wouldn't read about it. Something crazy happened after that. Like, you can't make this up. So we got the Raichu coming in here, and I was like, okay, we got to. I've got to defeat this Pickle Trainer, right? I'm not losing to them. So we got that Scale Shot. They're gonna, do a barrage of hits. One thing I like about this game now is the multiple hits go a lot faster than, say, Scarlet and Violet, because they took like 10 hours to do the whole lot. Raichu X had the player rough, so I was not living that. So bye-bye, Scrafty. Fortunately, that 4 times weak to Fairy is a very rough thing. So I went for Draco Meteor on the Raichu X here, and that took it out, so that was excellent. So, I was very, I was actually kind of interested to see what item the Arbok had, right? So, remember, he lived on 1 health before, but it didn't have a sash. You watch this, right? So, I went for a trick. I gave him a Disrespect Iron Ball, and I wanted to see what the item was. So, I gave them that. They had a Focus Sash. I was like, what? So, get this right. The reason that Focus Sash didn't activate is because it did 99% damage. It actually didn't need to be activated. So how crazy lucky is that, right? That's how that item works. So that didn't need to be activated, so it never activated, but it was there. It's absolutely crazy, right? You can't make it up. But anyway, whoever that random pickle person is, you better leave a comment on my video, right? Better leave a comment, all right? I got the W there. I wasn't losing to Pickle Trainer. All right, let's get on to the next one. I'm just going to ask you a few questions here. See what I did there. All right, so we got a Frostlass and an Incineroar lead this time. Okay, if you're enjoying the video, if you love them, make sure you drop that like. Drop me a comment there. Tell me what you think about Scrafty, or how's your day going, or night, or afternoon. Hope you're having a good week. If you're not, hopefully this video will, give you a laugh, Okay, so we got Fat Cat, and I missed the other Frostlass nickname. So we're going to go for that Mega straight away. Now, in this team, I was running into a lot of spread moves here. So this was around the time where I started to change out Farah Giraffe for Swampert. And it was actually quite a good, quite a good thing. Like, Wide Guard is just, in general, quite a good move for doubles, right? So Frost Slash actually goes for a Willow Miss, which lands on my Malamar. So, like, I'm glad that didn't go for my Scrafty, right? So Malamar is going to set up the Trick Room, which is good. So we got that speed advantage here. Now, I've got Throat Chop. I was like, Himi Sama. I don't know what that means. You guys probably understand some of these nicknames. Isn't Fat Cat's Garfield, right? That's not Garfield. It's not Monday either, because, Garfield hates Mondays. Anyway, I don't even know. Do those Garfield cartoons still exist? Because I remember they used to be in the paper like 200 years ago, but, like newspaper. I don't know if you guys still have that in other countries, but because everything's online now, right? But they used to be in the newspaper, and you could read them and stuff. I remember that. And have it in like the puzzle section. They have those other things like Sudoku and Garfield and all those other things. Man, I'm feeling old now. Cool. All right, back to the battle. It's making me feel old. So we've got the Scissor coming in here, Mega Scissor. And, we got that Throat Chop on the Frostless, taking that out. So good thing it went for my Malamar, didn't go for Scrafty. Maybe they just won some damage there. I actually thought they might have Hex because they used Will-O-Wisp. Watch this. So I had Bug Bite, and I really would have liked to have seen that at max health, because I think I would have lived that. Because the interesting fact, right, the Tanga Berry still takes effect. You still get that reduction, but the berry still gets consumed, which was really funny. But sadly, I didn't have full health to show the live there, but it actually does live. So we got the Incineroar come in, give me a nice juicy little boost here. Fat Cat's going to clap them cheeks. It's fine though. We got Power Gem here. Now, Power Gem on Goldengo, whether you're running a meme set or a competitive set, make sure you have it on Goldengo, because it's there for Charizard Y. You need that for Charizard Y. And for other fire types too, of course, but it's very good for Charizard Y. So Scissors loading his attack up for the Technician Bullet Punch. That doesn't even scratch the surface, does nothing. Going for the Power Jam on the Scissor now and just getting some extra damage. And we got Flare Blitz from Incineroar. So that's going to cook off my Goldengo. I wasn't really too concerned about that. My Scrafty had the, it had the Incineroar right where it needed it, right? So some recall there, going for close combat, and that's going to be enough to take out Scissor. Scissor's got some, it's got some pretty nice defenses. So I sort of wore it down a little bit. So we've got that defense and special defense rise, and another one, and the Trick Room's gone. Now we've got more souls, and we've got, is that for Mickey Mouse maybe? I don't know. So we got watch this, right? So we got Population Bomb. That's 3, 4, 5, 6. Man, you guys learn a lot of stuff. You learn how to count to 10 in these videos. You learn about Pokemon. Wow, it's like a glossary of knowledge, right? So go for that Drain Punch there, and that is the end of the Mickey Mouse. So that's going to give me, that's a free health pack, basically. So thank you for that. Thank you. Very, very nice health pack. So this turn, Gudra is just going to use Flash Cannon. Oh, is it just a disrespect Flash Cannon? Yeah, taking out the Incineroar. And that's the end of the battle there. So the Scrafty pretty much hanging around for the whole time. And yeah, that was one of the earlier battles where I did test the Drain Punch, and it was, it was good. Definitely have Drain Punch on your Scrafty for sure. Now, another move, say if you're not running a set like the Contrary set, if you're curious, like, what other move should I run this? So you've got some options. You can run Iron Head on there for Fairy types. I believe it gets Poison Jab as well. So that's your coverage for Fairy type Pokemon if you are concerned, which, it does have a big weakness. Okay, this battle. Okay, just what? I want you guys to experience this too. There was a couple of battles today that were just like, what the heck is going on? But it was actually really funny. I don't know if this random person is doing some kind of theme or something like that. If you guys pick up on what it was, just let me know in the comments. I always like to read my comments and, have a chuckle when I miss some stuff. So we've got Mega Dragonite here, dropping their attacks. I'm like, this is really good. Watch this. Garchomp unloads a Draco Meteor. I was like, what the heck? And it goes to a Scrafty. I was like, that's some... Is that max special attack? Then they double Draco Meteor on my Scrafty. I'm like, what the heck is this? So Scrafty barely holds on with 15 health. I'm like, what is this? What is this fever dream, right? So I went for Drain Punch, just to break its multi-scale. I didn't think I was going to be the dinosaurs, back in the day. And we got this Trick Room. It's going to get set up, right? So I took 4,000 meteors to the face, and I just lived. So I went for Garchomp. I was like, okay, I'm going to get rough skinned here. I'll try and get some health. But get this, Garchomp, it didn't have rough. It had Sand Veil. I'm like, what is going on here? So, so I went for skill swap. You know, I got the Intimidate again, and we got that rolling. Dragonite now uses Hydro Pump on my Scrafty, so they're still going for Scrafty. They're just adamant to take Fire Blast Garchomp. So at first, and they got a critical hit too. I'm like, what is this? So, man, at the start, I thought they might be running a mix set with Draco, because you can do that with Fire Blast as surprise, but they just went for a full special. They went for the full Pip Night special Garchomp. So, you got to respect that, right? So now we got the... Watch this. Like, this was crazy as well. Like, speaking of crazy stuff, not that there hasn't already been a lot already. So we got the Tyranitar coming in here. It's a little bit sandy. I went for Make It Rain. I'm like, well, this is going to do a lot to Tyranitar. And I was like, is that a Focus Sash Tyranitar? Like, after all the stuff, I critted. I'm like, yeah, that's a Focus Sash Tyranitar. That's a Focus Sash Tyranitar. It wasn't. I was like, what? Like, how did that live? That was a crit, mate, and that's gotta be, I know it gets a special defense boost, but damn, was that like max health? And man, we need some damage calcs in this video. There's multiple damage calcs that I'd like to know the answer to. Was that max health and max special defense? Or am I just overestimating Goldengo without a life orb or whatever? Crazy stuff. Anyway, we got Whimsicott coming in here. I went for Throat Chop. And that's the end of the Whimsicott. I know what Whimsicott's role was there. Probably just to, you know, be annoying with the Prankster. And we got Fire Blast Garchomp. So this thing is still in there from the start. I was expecting to get critted by it. So we got Malamar and Goldengo sort of just chilling here. And now we've got the Dragonite from, you know, the special attacking Dragonite from earlier. Now Garchomp is definitely full. They had Protect, Draco Meteor, and Fire Blast. I have to assume that it's probably got Earth Power. You know what they're doing? They're waiting for that Garchomp Z, you know? So going for Throat Chop on Dragonite. Getting a little bit of damage. Dragonite's got Heat Wave. Like, oh no. So some pretty good damage there to Goldengo. And a little bit to Malamar. We've got a bit of Sandstorm damage here as well. I know what Sandstorm was for some of their team, right? So the Trick Room's worn off. Swapping out the Goldengo. And going into Goodra. Because I figured that Goodra should be able to live, you know, virtually all of his attacks. So if another Fire Blast aimed at Goodra, well, aimed at my other Pokemon, which was Goldengo, right? So that was good. And now Dragonite's going to go for the Roost. And it's roosting up in the sand. And I managed to get Trick Room off again. If I kept Goldengo in there, I actually might have fainted to that Fire Blast. You never know. So... got to get rid of this Dragonite. So go for the Draco Meteor here. I'm just ignoring the Garchomp because it's virtually... how many special... It's got like a couple of special attack drops now. And it's pretty weak. So I finally took the Mega Dragonite out that appeared at the start of the battle. So I've got that White Herb that's going to be activated. And now I can use it again here. So go for Throat Chop. And that's enough to take out the Garchomp. But... I don't even know what that battle was. I just wanted to include just so you guys could experience it with me. So I'm not sure what happened there, but I'll give them credit. You know, big props there for running the special Garchomp. That's you know, it was like facing one of my sets here. Okay, we've got a casual battle here. I like to mix them in, and I didn't really get to show a lot of battles with Swampert in them because. I had a couple of battles where I just used Wide Guard and the opponent insta-forfeited, so they weren't really exciting battles. It was just, you know, funny the opponent used the spread move and then Swampert shut them down because they weren't expecting it. But, you know, this is a good example here where Swampert was pretty good. So we got a Frostlass and a Glaceon lead here. So I was half obviously I was expecting blizzards, but I was also half expecting it to have Snow Cloak or Snow Veil, right? And, you know, bright powder and, you know, scummy stuff like that. So first things first, we're going to go for Glaceon. I do not want to get hit by Blizzard. And the Frostlass sets up the Veil. So that's going to make that Glaceon really tanky. And Frostlass tanky itself. But, you know, Glaceon's going to be much more tanky. So setting up the Trick Room here. The good thing about Scrafty with Fake Out is you can almost always get a Trick Room up. All right. So going for the Throat Chop there. Good damage on the Frostlass. Very nice stuff. And I went for Skill Swap this turn. So I got the Skill Swap off. I almost wanted to skill swap the Glaceon, but I'm actually glad that I didn't, because this had a completely different ability. So the first Blizzard hits really hard. That was a Life Orb Glaceon. I was like, man, that did a lot. So that was the first sort of signal that told me that, you know, it's probably not going to be a scumbag set with Veil. And then I got critted by, which did matter, by the way, because that's bulky Malamar. So it's got Ice Body. So Ice Body Life Orb. Nice touch there. So bringing in Swampert. This actually is quite a good set. Well, the wide guard part of it is. And I brought Iron Tail on there, or there was Iron Tail or Hard Press. Take your pick. That was for Sylveon, right? So I had the wide guard, which was useful for getting around Blizzard, and I was starting to attack this Glaceon, right? You know, get some damage there, build my defenses in case they did go for... You know, Glaceon could have something like Freeze Dry. Really, Frostlass couldn't do anything to me outside of, like, Blizzard. And I doubt they were running Ice Beam on there. It wouldn't make any sense. So, Wide Guard completely shutting those two Pokemon down. A little bit more Ice Body damage. Ice Body. And then we're going to hit the Frostlass with Melmetal's Tail. And, you know, that's the end of Frostlass. There's some perfect stuff there. Iron Tail. I was really thinking about, like, is it Iron Tail or Hard Press, you know? Like, Hard Press would be good for Sylveon, but... You know, if Sylveon takes some damage, then Hard Press isn't really all that good. So Sylveon's down. The last Pokemon they've got here is going to be Toxapex and a Sneasler called Meowth. It was Meowth-a-Teeny. Okay. So Toxapex is going to use Baneful Bunker, or it's going to stall. Who would have ever guessed? I'm going to hit Meowth with a Horseshoe, and it looks like Team Rocket's blasting off again. Man, I miss Team Rocket, the original ones. They were the best. Anyway, so I went for the close combat, and yeah, that's going to hit the Toxapex, and I'm going to poison myself. But virtually here, the Toxapex, it tried to stall. Used Baneful Bunker a couple of times there and stalled a bit. So I swapped this Scrafty out and went into Goodra because I've got Thunderbolt. And I thought that'd be good for it. And then he used Facade. I'm like, what is this set? You know, then I started to think maybe it's a Merciless set, right? So I went for high horsepower. You know, some good damage there on the Toxapex. Some very good stuff. The next turn, they tried to Baneful Bunker and stall. I think they went for Baneful Bunker once or twice or something like that. And then they did their final attack here on my Swampert, and then they critted me. So I'd say that was a Merciless set. And we're going to throw the Horseshoe at the Toxapex, and that's the end of the battle. But yeah, just sort of show that Swampert there. It was good for Wide Guard, and it can make a good facade for like Mega Swampert. Just if you think you have a Wide Guard user there. But that's pretty much it. Hope you enjoyed today's team. It was a really fun video to do. Tons of great battles. Here's the team if you want to give it a go. So we've got these 6 Pokemon here. I did opt to swap the Swampert out for Faradraft, and it really worked nicely. You might be able to swap out Iron Tail for a better move there, or maybe Hard Press, but I just felt it was good for like Sylveon and stuff like that. If you do want to swap the Scrafty around and not have a contrary set, you can have Iron Head on there as well. It just works very, very nicely. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Have some fun if you try this, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.